Hey everybody, it's Josh Levine, and you are back with me on Great Mondays Radio. Today I have employee experience expert and the founder of Purposeful Business, Brooke Ozlem Erol. She is a longtime friend. We've worked together on a few things. We co-authored a book many years ago, part of a group of I don't know, activist business people who wanted to change things in business, and so we are aligned on a lot of things. And I think specifically, so there's a lot that she knows and speaks. She does career coaching. She is a consultant for a lot of businesses, but I think it's the intersection of those things that make the conversation most interesting. And I wanted to chat with her a little bit about kind of um the I guess the ecology of business today, like where we are, how things are evolving, and they're changing rapidly, which we all know. We've talked many times about, and more specifically, she has a unique perspective of being able to work with individuals who are looking for a great fit, as well as the businesses who are looking for those individuals. And I think that's a really unique perspective. And I think that's really where we want to start. So, Brooke, so great to see you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us on Great Mondays Radio.
Of course. It's so great to see you too, my friend, and good to be back here and talking to you about the topics that we both share and passionate about. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the first thing that I mean, I think your kind of your bailiwick, the thing that you've talked about for your entirety of your career is purpose. And that is obviously something that I'm pretty passionate about, the why behind everything. And what I thought was really interesting, you kind of put words to what I was observing, which was um, before it was sort of like, hey, this is a really important thing, right? I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And everybody went, huh, interesting. And then like 5 years ago, everybody went, yeah, that's really great. And now they're like, I don't, whatever, right? Like they're on to the next thing. And so it is such a powerful concept. Talk to me about the kind of the evolution of moving from, hey, this is really important to, why don't we talk about AI instead, right? Like, let's just forget this. I got to go on to something else.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking that question because that's something that I talk and think about daily because I think I'm like a black sheep of the times because as soon as I started working, I started asking myself, why am I working here? What am I doing? Who am I
Right.
contributing to?
Yeah.
That's such a natural part of me, but that wasn't the conversation at the time. But I was working at IBM at the time and sitting one day thinking, what am I doing here? Yes, I am a good account executive person and everything, but what does it do? How does it help others? I had to find answers to myself, but I wasn't finding a lot of people. They were saying, "Oh, you go to work to make money, to get a paycheck. You have a good
Hmm.
paycheck. What are you talking about?" So I felt very much alone at the time. But that's where the purpose started for me was really in the very early years of my career because it didn't feel right to hate your Mondays. That's why I love your book, because that's what I kept saying. Why are people coming here and hating their Mondays, even their Sunday evenings? This is no way to live. I mean, I
Yeah.
live like this. So that's where it started for me personally. But as like you said, the purpose words and everything came about and started to get some recognition, even like in the CEO roundtable, and then even at a big finance company like BlackRock. They even started talking about it years ago, even before the pandemic. And I was getting so excited. I said, finally, they're seeing the meaning of this word. Because I think
Hmm.
what's dangerous about a word that we use daily is that we think everybody understands the same thing when we say purpose. I think it's the same for culture. Culture is a common word, but does everybody understand the same thing when we say culture? I don't think so.
No.
Everybody, when you ask them, would have a different definition, different
Yep.
understanding.
Yep.
I think at first why I got excited was I was thinking, oh, finally, they understand how much this will mean for business results, for employee experience, for everything. But So at some point, especially when we go through something difficult like a pandemic, and that's when McKinsey's of this world started talking about purpose, purpose. There was so much research, which I love, because a lot of people said they really find their purpose through work. They want more purposeful work. And I got so excited. But I knew very early on as I started working with companies that it started becoming a checkbox, right?
Checkbox. Yep.
Like the DEI right now, right? We have
Yep.
so much comment now. People are pulling away from it because it was again a checkbox. Oh, now purpose is important. Let's create a statement for our company. Done. That was it. That ended there. It was like a marketing tagline. And I was like going so I frustrated. Look, that's not it. You can't stop it there. It's not going to make a big difference. But that's where it, unfortunately, it only got to that point for most of the companies, I should say. There are really good ones that I
Mm,
follow. But most of them, it became a checkbox, it became a band-aid because it was becoming a trendy thing to do. They did it anyways, but now, as you can see, it's just fading away because they didn't get the real meaning of it and they didn't see the fruits of it. They
yeah.
didn't wait enough to see how this is going to play out in the company, and they didn't keep it like live, and it should be something live every single day. So
Right.
anyways, so that's what I saw, like nothing about purpose. Then it started to gain some
Yeah.
recognition. Then, oh my God, it became such a big deal, and now we're going back and the trend is moving
Everybody. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for you for you to kind of connect that with, and it makes sense with the COVID and the lockdown. And I was just reading some research on how people were like, "Wait a minute, what am I doing with my life?" And what's interesting is that usually there's always these business trends, and it follows this kind of S curve, right?
Yes,
Where, you think about I don't know, in the 70s, quality assurance, right? And then it's like, oh, everybody's focused on quality assurance and all that stuff. And then it becomes, to your point, like another way to say it, the check mark, it becomes part of the process. And then the quality of all the products go up, and then it's no longer an advantage. And so, but it is still part of the organization. And we saw that with any of these technologies, right? You get computers, or you get internet, or you get all these things, and then it's just like it's improving, improving, improving. But when you have something like purpose, if you have saw the value of it, but you only felt like it addressed the immediate problem, that problem maybe is going away, they haven't built it into their organization.
definitely.
And now you're right, it's not like, okay, now it's integrated, which I would love, right? Since some organizations do think about that. But to me, right, you want to answer this question before people start asking, what the hell am I doing with, here?
Yeah,
And you're still going to get those questions.
yeah,
I don't know. And it just, people are still so burnt out. They're still feeling these effects, but now we're like, wait a minute, AI, let's look at that thing over there. What, before we get into this, the intersection between what we want and what individuals should be looking for and what companies should be articulating to find those people, what have you seen when you think about the best organizations that you've worked with that have truly embodied that, gotten the idea of purpose and integrated it, and it's part and parcel of their work? What does that look like?
yes. Thank you. Thank you for asking. First of all, I did the mistake of thinking that we can really start in the middle management level and maybe go up, which definitely did not work. So all the companies that made this work and understand completely what purpose can do for them together with culture. I never leave it at purpose, right? The purpose, the values, like your book also says, of course, that, and then going into the vision of the company and then the business strategy, but in this order, not starting with the business strategy, but starting with why are we here really? What are we trying to accomplish besides making money, besides beyond making profit, right? What are we doing? Are we helping our employees, uplifting them? Are we helping our clients, are the world, the planet, right? So if they did come from that point of view and really followed with the values that they want to live by and make sure that this is alive every single day until it really penetrates to the whole company. So it's not a statement that is hanging on the wall or just
Mhm.
there on the website, but it's really lived and breathed every day. How does that happen? For example, you always start your maybe your meetings with that. You end your meetings with that. Whenever a decision needs to be made, then you remember what your purpose is and you say, are we aligned with that decision? For example, one of the things that I really got my attention when Southwest was really doing really great was, for example, every airline started like charging for luggage. And then they, of course, this was brought by the shareholders to the Southwest executives, and they said, look at what we have as our purpose. It's affordable travel. Affordable. So we're not going to do it. And then they got all this, of course, resistance saying, oh, you're going to leave 300 million on the table. Every airline is doing. We should do it. They said, no, we're going to stick with our purpose. We said affordable and we're never going to charge for it. And they didn't. That is what it takes to be purposeful. It's not to put a statement out there which sounds good, which looks like a marketing tag. No, when it comes down to the most important decisions, which can maybe even leaving money on the table, you make the decision aligned with your purpose and your values. And at the
It's
end, of course, in that story, they
yeah.
made more money because their fans, like at the time, especially, I was really so much in love with the company. Yes, of course, I want to stick more with them. And they had even more clients who wanted to be with them. I think that's one of the key points.
Yeah.
Not something that you do and create, but you have to live it. Otherwise, clients, the employees, and to see that if there is misalignment and there is lack of integrity, and that doesn't work at all. So I know you're going to say something.
Yeah, well, there is so it is to me it goes right back to the short versus the long-term thinking.
Mm,
And it's hard to avoid that. And it is a hard decision. It's only a hard decision when there's money on the line, right?
yes.
Like
Yes.
it's like, well, why don't we
That,
just make this, you know what? It would be, why don't we make some more money now and then we can support that. We'll make that blah blah blah. And so that's a hard thing to do. That's a really difficult decision to make.
yes.
And I love that idea of like guidance.
Yes.
And in tough times, that becomes, it's almost like not only is it not important, but we're like, you know what? We should probably ignore it. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Uh-huh. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so let's then move us to the kind of next evolution, right? As some like there is a lot of turmoil. So there's in the employment market, right? We had the great resignation, where we have the sort of great disengagement where people aren't moving, but they're very unsatisfied and would probably rather do that. How do you advise individuals who are looking for meaning in their work, right? You
Mhm.
do have this sort of like, hey, I need a certain amount of money, I'm looking for something. How do you balance that and how do you help them navigate to find an alignment between what their own purpose and values are and what the organization's purpose is? Because it's like you could find something and but you're going to end up at the same place in 18 months anyways.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So I first started, my first business was only about helping individuals, just like myself. I was working at this big, huge, wonderful company, making a lot of money, but I wasn't fulfilled. I don't use happiness because happiness to me is like more temporary, but I
Yes.
was looking for more fulfillment. So I started helping people just like me who are in the corporate. Maybe they have the best job on paper, but they are not satisfied. They're not finding any meaning in it. So when I started working with people, I realized that what one, and you know this very well, you first have to find out more about yourself. I mean, the first thing is really the inner journey. What do I really want to do? What gives me joy? What gives me the flow? What is my passion and everything? And then how do you combine your values, your strengths, your passion in a way that matters to you, brings you more closer to what your purpose is? And how do you like use that and live that in your life, in at your career,
Mm.
basically?
Mm.
That's not an easy thing to do. So it has a lot of steps, and it definitely requires you to find out more about who you really are without all the demands of the society or the approvals or whatever. So that's the first step, of course, that I usually take my clients through. But also, if they already have a job, to see if they are or can also bring their gifts and their talents to what they already are doing. For example, you're maybe an accountant in a company, and maybe you like the punching the numbers, but a piece of you wants to uplift people in your life. So can you do that at work? Can you do that with everybody that you are in touch with at work, with your clients, with other
Mm.
departments? We always start with what their existing job is, but most of the people who work with me are already laid off, and they want to take the time to find out the best job, best career for them that's gonna be aligned with them. So during that break, then we have to do some reflections and like some like inventory of what they went through, what they liked about their past jobs, what they
Mm.
didn't like, what gives them joy. Especially, I'm very much in line with the flow. How does flow work for you? When do you feel like your time is like flowing without even you noticing that? So all of that, but like you said, there's the reality of life. What are the type of jobs that you're looking for? The industry, the
Right.
lifestyle you want to lead.
Right.
Is that a remote type of job, hybrid, or you love to go to work type of person? What kind of money you need to make? And then now with especially AI and technology, you have to also check the forecast of that job now. Is that something that's gonna be there after into 5, 6, 10 years, right? Is that job gonna go away? What are the forecasts? Then
Yeah.
you have be realistic about that too. Or so it's four different things that can happen. You're either finding more joy and fulfillment at the existing job you have, or you're
Okay.
switching to a new career, or you're starting something on your own, or you find something really, really satisfying next to your
Outs
job, right?
outside of, right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's very different for everyone. So we have to go and see what we want as an individual. But I think it's the same for
Yeah. That's great.
organizations. That's why after I work with hundreds and hundreds of people, I said, oh my God, everybody's looking for the same things, but there are not enough companies who are providing this culture for their people. So how can I help the leaders of organizations to create these cultures so that now we can find the alignment between the two? People who know what they want, the companies know what kind of people they want, and then when they match, it just becomes beautiful. That's where the miracles happen. So it's almost the same thing that I'm doing with individuals and organizations, really.
Well, but I mean, we're talking about, you're advising these individuals to find the flow or find the things that they're excited about. Are you suggesting that to managers to go in and say, have this conversation, have the Brook level conversation with their employees and say, hey, how can I help you feel more fulfilled? Or I noticed that? Or is it, or is there an aspect of, and who do you work with when you think about, hey, we need to bring on more people that want to feel fulfilled and you kind of make that promise? Or I don't know. I'm just sort of putting pieces together. Correct me.
I think it's a combination of those. What fulfilled me, even at a job at IBM, which I didn't enjoy as much, at some point my general manager allowed us to go out of our job description. So we usually go and find a job, and it's very tailored to one thing that you
Yep.
do.
Yep.
But then, for example, as an account executive, I love employee experience, even at the time. So at the time, the morale of the employees were so low, engagement was so low. I was part of a group totally out of my job definition, working on how do we motivate people at IBM. That gave me so much joy. I think that's what I always tell when I work with the HRs and HR people or the employee experience people, that you might get people in on board for a specific job, but allow them to volunteer for other things they can do at work, because we bring so many other things and we might think we're good at, because I started with marketing. That's what I applied to, right? Marketing jobs. But then I realized, oh my God, I love to be part of the employee experience team. Can I volunteer for that? Can I do some work and projects on that? They said yes. Those are the jobs and those are the companies that do well. They don't only like put people in these little boxes, but they
Yeah.
allow them to be their wholeness comes to play, right?
Yeah.
They can do other things. And I think hiring is a big piece of this too. I I work with some clients doing hiring in a very specific different way. It's not, oh, apply to this job, like really fill out this application form. They answer very important questions. And that's what we come up with my clients. We come up with really important questions about what kind of people they are. You cannot fake it. You have to answer open-ended questions. And then we look at the answers without knowing who they even are, without looking at their resumes. And that's how we get the people in. And I think it's so much better than let me look at the resume, look at my experience. It
Yeah.
just brings better people in.
I mean, I feel like the flaw in resumes is
Mhm.
really the kind of we're looking for heuristics and mnemonics to kind of
Yeah.
shorten the distance to be symbols for the kind of people we're looking for. And that's been the challenge. So what kind of questions are really important questions? That's what you just described. So illuminate me. What are some examples of really important questions that organizations can add to substitute their kind of hiring practices with in order to find the right fit people? And I would even imagine those questions, if it's a good question, it's going to strike an interviewee as being like, oh, this is a different kind of company.
Exactly. And it happened to me too. I worked at a project with AARP at the time. They were trying to help people over 50, like to find their purpose. So that's how I found them basically. It was five different questions that you have to answer in paragraphs. It wasn't like multiple choices either. It was asking questions. And I think it's very specific to the kind of people that they're looking for, the culture of the company, the role that they're looking for. But in general, it's something like, okay, what interested you in applying to this company, to this role? What do you think what you have done in the past is going to bring to this team? How do you think you can contribute to this team? I mean, all the you are a why person like me too. All the whys behind what they're doing, behind the
Oh, that's a
right?
great way to put it. Sorry to begin with. Let me just, I'm gonna kind of put a little bookmark there, a little flag on that, right? So you're moving from what and how to why
Yes,
in the
exactly.
interview process. Holy moly.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's
Exactly. Exactly. What makes you excited? Why did you choose to apply to this one? And it's just like you can see in the answers the authenticity or the lack of authenticity if it is something that they're applying to anything and everything, right? If they apply to anything, everything because they need to have a job to pay the bills, that's okay too. But you can immediately pick the ones who are really passionate, you are really excited about your company or the role. It
yeah.
makes a huge difference. It really did. And because of my answers, I was out of like hundreds of applicants. I was one of the 8 people that they chose, because it is not a coincidence, because I got so excited when I saw that on Twitter. It was on Twitter, like people over 50 finding their purpose. AARP tries to change direction. Unfortunately, they killed the program, but it was one of the best projects I work with. And it was only with passionate people who are really excited about what they did. And you
Yeah.
know how it works when people love what they do. It's just a whole different energy. And that's what businesses are unfortunately missing out. If they really
Yeah.
understand how much of a difference it makes when you like your job or you're just there to make money, which is okay for a lot of people, and I'm not judging them, but it just, you have a dormant energy that comes up and you have a whole different energy and so much more to give. And businesses really take advantage of that if they are smart enough to know this. I mean, that's why I feel bad when they don't understand it. But what can I do? I'm trying my best, and some people do, some people are not there yet, I guess.
Okay, so I'm thinking practicalities now. Aren't we just
Yes.
going to end up with AI bots talking to AI bots? I mean, there's so many that, the sort of digitalization of everything makes it possible to apply for so many jobs. And
Yeah.
then the hiring managers get inundated with hundreds of applications. And so no, of course they're going to be using filters and blah blah blah. And then, on my end, I'm looking for jobs and I'm like, oh my God, I got to answer five open-ended questions, and I'm gonna use I'm gonna try to be more efficient. So isn't that or is that a I guess is that a bad thing? Like, we just talked about authenticity. Like, how do we get? I don't know. Does that circumvent that? Does that like become problematic? How do you handle
Yeah.
that kind of process where you're just like everybody's trying to shortcut everything?
Of course, good question. And I think it depends. It really makes a big difference between a small and a huge company, right? Huge companies get thousands and thousands of
Yes.
applications.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the
Yep.
smaller ones, it's better and easier to handle. But what I was referring to, for example, I'm working with a UK company. There is technology behind it too. So it's not like, oh, a person has to check and everything. So you come up with the best keywords, you come up with the best answers, and
Yeah.
course, through AI and technology, you can kind of filter out some of them already. And
Yeah.
then, of course, you still have to spend more time than just looking at resumes. But even with resumes and the filtering programs, you do that. And I am a big believer that if you spend the time, the resources and money at the very beginning and get the right people in the long run, you save more money because there's so much turnover and they spend so much more time. That's one of my entry points with some companies. I do a turnover cost analysis. And when I get the number person next to me and we look at the numbers, most of them look at only the direct cost of hiring and the turnover. There is so much indirect cost, like you know. And when you punch in the numbers, it is crazy amounts. Even for a mid-sized company, it's crazy amount of money that they lose. So I believe if you spend the time and the money in the first place, get the right people in, so that in the culture that you have, you're trusting first of all, because all the companies who put spyware on their computers when the pandemic forced people to work at home, that drove me
Don't
crazy.
don't get me started. Don't get
Yeah,
me started.
I
We're
know, I
that's
know.
the
But
other direction. We're
I know. But
regressing.
yes, but at the same time, you obviously do not make a good job when you're hiring your people. If you have so much distrust in your people, do it well at the beginning. Spend the money and the time at the beginning. Yes, it might be a little bit more cumbersome to come
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
processes than just doing this, but just through resume filtering, do you have the best and the right people in? Probably not. I don't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a long-ended like question, and we can discuss it probably for at least a couple of days with you, but hiring is really one of the things. And then with your culture work, my purpose, values, vision work, if you don't help your people tie in what they're doing on a daily basis to something bigger, you're not doing any good service, right? For example,
Yeah.
again, giving an accountant, he's punching numbers every day, but if he can tie what he does to the purpose of the company, let's say it's a like a dishwasher detergent company, but they want to make sure it doesn't harm the environment. He's going to say, I'm punching in numbers here every day, but I'm also helping the planet not to go even worse, like not to pollute the environment. That's the company I'm working for. So it's
Yeah.
not only punching numbers anymore. I mean, all those companies who are making sure that their people can tie in what they do on a daily basis to something bigger, that they're contributing to a bigger picture, it just makes a huge difference. But it takes time to get there.
Do you ever but nodding vigorously, right? Obviously, we agree on the value of this. In large, global scale organizations, the purpose, I often wonder if even if you're like, yeah, yeah, but you get caught up in it. You get caught up in the day to day and you're like your own thing and you just don't have those reminders, right? And obviously I'm advocate for cues and making sure people see all that stuff. The the question to me is how do you bring that purpose closer to the employee?
Hmm.
And I'm thinking about some stories that I've heard about um, business unit managers or even just team group leaders who say, you know what, we're going to define a purpose for our own team
Hmm.
to because it is I mean, sure, you've got that story about the janitor who works at NASA, right? And he gets stopped and they're like, what are you doing? He's like putting a man on the moon, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's great, that's wonderful. And there is, I think, another level, another lever that we can use to make it a little more applicable. Do you think through that part
Sure.
and fill in those
Sure.
blanks?
Sure. The best of the best ones also do that. They go individually, even not to the business unit level. They go to that level, but even to the individual level. They invite people like me to make sure that their people know their own individual purpose. And
Yeah.
then they see if that is in alignment with the company. And but they are okay if that person finally gets enlightened and feels like, oh my God, this is my purpose, but I can't live it here, so I need to leave. They're okay with that too.
Mm,
But but most of the people can find something in the work that they do, and they find more meaning in what they do. It's not only a paycheck. They start to get to have their great Mondays, and they
mm,
stay even more and they get more engaged. But some of the percentage of them are gonna leave. But the best of the best really encourage their people, and they even bring in people, experts, to find their purpose, and maybe to the also the group level, the team level, the business level. But the umbrella never changes, right? The umbrella purpose, of course it can change. I don't mind to say it's going to be there for 100 years. It needs to be an evolving one, like Reinventing Organizations book tells us, right? The Frederick Laloux book says that yes, it is an evolving purpose. It can evolve time, but under that umbrella, what does this business unit think it's important? But in the individual level, what do you think your purpose is, and how do you
yeah.
tie it into what you do? I mean, those are the best of the best. Are there a big number of them? Unfortunately, not, right? I would have loved to see by now thousands of companies doing this. And that's what my clients want. My individual clients keep on asking, right? This is what I want to do, Brooke. So, what are the companies that I can work with? Which are the most purposeful ones? And the small and medium-sized companies are doing a better job with that. Like you say, when
Yeah.
they scale, when they grow, it just gets
It's
disconnected.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little easier. And I think that takes us right back to the beginning of the conversation, the alignment between the individual and the business.
Yes.
And, it's to me the what is most compelling about this concept is I guess you don't have to, right? But it feels to me like it's inevitable that you're at some point going to ask that question, like, what is it that I'm doing?
Yes.
And you may not even realize it, but you're really asking it for yourself. You're asking it for your group and you're asking it of your company.
Yes.
And so would behoove the organization to predefine that and answer those questions to both draw and keep talent that is really excited about what they're doing.
Exactly.
And I think organizations that need this obviously all organizations can benefit, but
Yes.
organizations that need it most are the ones that and I think this is probably why small and medium, or one of the reasons, is like they need that kind of extra leg up, that unique uh, edge, right? That
Yes.
unique benefit to
Yes.
attract and compete with some of those other orgs. And
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah, and you know that like the new generations also seek this, right? They seek this purpose and more like planet people friendly companies as a client, as a consumer as well, right? We
yep,
try, I think I'm sure you're one of them. We try to buy from companies who are doing good, not doing harm. I think it was British Academy has a good definition. It says like let's create companies who solve people and planet problems and do it profitably, but not profit from creating even more problems for people and planet, right? I love
Mm-hmm.
that definition
Mm-hmm.
because some companies we see that they're creating even more problems, and we don't want to be associated with those brands. We don't want to work for those brands who are not doing the right things for people or planet. I mean, that consciousness has grown more in my lifetime, and now I look at the like millennials or Gen Z, they really, really care about that. So sometimes when I go to leaders, I say like, you might not really even care so much about what your employees think, but I know you do care about what your clients think, and your clients demand this more too. Not everybody, but there is definitely more consciousness around who to buy from, which company to support, where do you spend your money. So that's also becoming more and more commonplace too, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah. So,
Well, I feel like that we are kind of starting to have a second conversation about the current cultural capital C climate around what is and is not acceptable and inside of organizations, which I think will leave off because I feel like that's going to extend us a little too long, and move us where we don't want to be focused today.
yeah.
But our conversation has been amazing.
Yeah.
Brooke Ozlem Erol is you can find her on LinkedIn. Just type in Brooke Brooke and her last name Erol, and you'll find her. She's one of a kind. You can also find her at purposeful.business is her URL. She's got so many pearls of wisdom about this work, and I am just just so grateful to have you in my circle, and excited to be able to share you and introduce you to some of the folks in my community here on Great Mondays Radio. So thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you. I'm grateful that I was able to spend this time with you, Josh. Thank you. Good to see you. And thanks for all the work that you do. I know it's not easy to do this work, and but I really grateful to have people like you in my life too, because that's how we're gonna change things and
That's how we're
hopefully,
gonna do it.
yes,
Rabble
yes,
rousers
yes,
unite. All
yes. And
right,
unleash.
Brooke.
Yes. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day. And thanks for everybody who's listening. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.